Oh, na me now. Oh, me na. Oh, me na na. Oh, me na. We na na. We oh me na. We oh me na. Oh, me na na na. We oh me. Oh na. We na. We na. We na. We na. Na. We oh we now. Me now.
Hello there, and welcome to The High Ground, a Doof bonus content show where we're adventuring into the DreamWorks Shrek franchise. I'm your favourite fearless hero host, Reuben Morehouse.
And I'm your sexy, lonely, mistrusting host, Elliot Diebold.
And I'm your therapy dog in a little sweater sock host, Georgia Diebold.
God, when we find out the backstory of that sweater sock, what a moment, huh?
Oh, so adorable.
Yeah. I mean, I get that. That's a good time to bring up. Like, there's a real weird thing. I don't think we've done anything topical before.
Yeah.
And it's weird.
We haven't, have we?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because I almost want to be like,
Spoiler alert.
yeah, this is a really good movie. And if you think there's any chance, you'll watch it. Especially if you're one of the people who is not a patron and hates us and is 6 months behind.
Mhm.
It's probably on streaming by now. So, like,
it's going to Netflix about 5 months after it released in cinemas. We haven't even said what we're talking about yet. We're talking about Puss in Boots: The Last Wish.
Yeah, but it's in the title.
Like,
there's
you
no
can
way
infer it from the introductions we just gave very easily.
No, but you wouldn't unless you know
the movie.
Yeah. But yeah, so yeah, Puss in Boots 2, the last one. I feel like I can speak for all three of us when I say to kick it off. Really recommend this film. Yeah,
Yes.
Go watch it if you think there's any chance you will want to before listening to this. I can't recommend it enough.
And I didn't think I wanted to watch this movie before I went and saw it, but you want to go see this movie, especially in cinemas. Like, this is a movie that is going to be great to watch in cinemas because it was on the big screen. It was fantastic, and like, just to set the tone, we've talked about like the Pirates of the Caribbean films, the Shrek films, and you know those franchises have some excellent movies in them. I don't think there's any other good franchises that we've talked about. Yes, I'm including The Mummy, but like this movie. Like, I can see this movie being like this is a movie that people are going to talk about in 20 years, like the first Pirates of the Caribbean or, you know, Shrek 1 and 2. Like, this movie is fucking great.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely... This is closer to Shrek's 1 and 2 than anything else in the Shrek franchise, for sure.
Yeah.
I still think those films are a little bit better, but it's definitely getting to the point where I think nostalgia could be the factor there. Like, it's too close to sort of know for sure.
My feeling is that this was like a better film. Like, the themes were more interesting and well executed. It was like less funny and maybe a little bit less fun than those, but again, that could be nostalgia.
The sequence in Shrek 2, the holding out for a hero sequence in Shrek 2, which is one of the best bits of movies, right? Like, that's just exceptional, that sequence. I would say that the first 15 minutes to this film like rival, if not exceed that. I think that was so much fun. I could barely keep up with all the things that was happening. It was incredible.
Yeah. I guess the thing that I've always loved about Shrek very specifically, and like when I think of Shrek, I think of the world they created and all the cool things they did with like fairy tales and fairy tale tropes. And I don't think this movie quite competes with them on that. That said, it does a lot better than anything following Shrek 2. But like, I guess that's the yardstick that I think matters to me. So that's the one where I'm like, this one doesn't quite hit their level, but it gets very close. Like, yeah, we'll talk about like Goldilocks and the Bears and Jack Horner, but like, I'm just thinking back to like Shrek 4 and the first Puss in Boots.
Yeah.
And I'm like, those kept trying to use fairy tale things as villains and it didn't work. And this one really did.
Yeah, it did work. But yeah, agreed. It's not it's not dissing fairy tales in the same way. It's more just using them.
Yeah.
The characters.
There's some X Factory vibe thing about Shrek that I like more than like Puss in Boots is more Spanish/Mexican adventure vibe. I don't know.
Yeah. So I was just nodding, and then I realized that was going to be difficult to hear.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I don't know if I agree. I think I agree, but maybe like because like
I mean, this is very much just splitting hairs. It's probably not worth talking about in a way because it's like, yeah,
whatever. Like the Jack Horner stuff, which was like taking fairy tales and making jokes out of them in the same way that Shrek 2 did with, like, Hollywood / fairy tale cross humor. That all worked for me a lot in this movie.
I don't think it was quite as clever as Shrek 2, but I think the rest of the movie was more clever.
I think both Shrek 1 and 2 really benefited from having that inversion of fairy tales or that critique really woven into themselves, whereas Puss in Boots 2 doesn't quite have that to the same degree. Like, it's criticizing how much people should think of themselves as fairy tales, which doesn't quite connect to the same level. Whereas, like, in Shrek 2, the interesting things about every fairy tale that appears are because they tie into, like, what the wider world is doing. But but I agree. Like, Jack Horner was a lot of fun in this, and like his
bag of tricks.
Yeah, his Mary Poppins
his bag of holding. Let's just say,
it was specifically the Mary Poppins bag, wasn't it?
Yes, no, it was, because at the start they took an umbrella out of it, and then one of the people floated away.
Oh, is that
never came back?
I thought it was because he calls it a nanny's storage bag at some point or something.
Yes. No, but they take.
I did not get the umbrella.
It's got umbrellas on it, and they take an umbrella out of it at the start, and one of the person who's holding the umbrella just floats away. And
I think she like flies with an umbrella at one point.
Mary Poppins.
Mary Poppins. Yes.
Very good.
Yeah, but
I don't think I've seen it.
You would have seen
crazy.
it. Like, we watched it at least once when we were little, but we never really watched it. Not much.
I think I remember it being on once, but I left because I didn't like it.
It's super boring.
It is pretty shit, in fairness. Apologies, but but yeah, great movie. That's the headline is "Go watch the movie." The byline on this one is "Great movie." Check it out.
Now this is cracking into spoilers because like bouncing off our opinions here. But I think the thing that really stood out to me, like, if we're talking about it, not maybe challenging fairy tales, but the thing it did was like, Puss has to face death. Like, he has to face his mortality. And to have, like, a children's character do that, I thought was, like, really interesting take.
For sure. Yeah. We're going to be jumping around the notes, but fuck it, let's just do it.
Yeah, because, I mean, this sort of spans across the whole film. Like, it's kind of the whole idea of the movie. So if we're talking about, like, opening thoughts, I mean, that's my main thought on this film was, like, I really liked the idea of... and I guess in a way you could argue that it is not just maybe challenging, I don't know, fairy tales, but just like children's characters. And the idea that's like, you know what, like, fuck it, Puss is mortal and he has to start cherishing life and, facing consequences and the ramifications of that. I thought it was such a really interesting theme for a film, let alone a kid's film.
I think it's great when a movie like this, which is a kid's movie ostensibly, like, one has good lessons in it for children and isn't just like a way for kids to kill time, but is actually like a movie that is trying to impart in the same way that movies for adults have good interesting stories and parables for adults, good kids movies have interesting things to say to children, and this is a movie that does that, but also it doesn't treat its children audience like idiots. You know what I mean? Like, it's just so good.
And I guess to go back a bit to what George was saying about how, like, Shreks 1 and 2 were very much more like dealing with fairy tales. I think there is an element to this one of, like, Puss in Boots isn't just facing his mortality, but he and Goldilocks are kind of being forced to, like, smell the roses is a literal thing that comes up, but like they're too attached to their stories and not enough to their, like, life, or they're so focused on, like, the story they want told about them that they're not realizing what they've got in their life. And so there's an element here where, like, Puss in Boots is, like, it's a very loose link, but it is kind of trying to touch directly on the idea of, like, criticizing, like, the movie opens with, this is a fairy tale. And I think that, like, then the whole rest of the movie is basically telling you that it's bad to think like that. Like, don't aim for a fairy tale. Don't aim for that sort of perfection. You got to, like, enjoy what happens in your life, even if it doesn't kind of meet your expectations.
Yeah, that's very true, and that you can link that to like fairy tales, like the idea that and like appreciating what you have. Again, a very good lesson for people to learn, like appreciating what you have rather than think about what you think your life should be like. And again, I guess if we're comparing it to Shrek, I think Shrek had a very basic message. Like Shrek was like, don't ostracize people, and like weird people are people too and have value. Like don't be exclusionary. Like very simple message, but told in a very clever setting and in a very clever way. This is kind of maybe the opposite. Like it's not an especially like, it's just a story, but the messages that are in there, which is like, facing death and like, I mean, what you just said, I'm not going to say the whole thing again. Like a lot more complicated or interesting things to put across in a film that, but it was just done in a more straightforward way.
So I've been watching this show, Flash Moves in Trouble, which is on Disney Plus. It's pretty good. It's a very adult drama about a couple going through a divorce, and no spoilers for it. But one of the things that show is exploring is the idea of like the fantasies of people that you build up in your head and learning to kind of accept the reality of who people are and be happy with that. And I feel like that I really love that show. This movie, I think, did a better job of concisely summing up that theme. Like I just can't get over how much I fucking loved this movie. Like genuinely,
it's so like, good.
Yeah,
I'll put it another way, which is that I've watched this week Glass Onion, Banshees of Inisherin, and this movie. 3 movies. The other 2 movies were both ones that I was really looking forward to and really, really enjoyed. And this one is the one that's still stuck in my head as like, wow, what a great movie that I want to recommend to people. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I kind of I think I went full circle on the expectations because all the reviews for this film are like 95% and above on like Rotten Tomatoes. Part of me was like, well, it can't actually be that good. So I'd already like pre-tempered my expectations. So then I was blown away when I came out and I was like, actually, that is like a 95 plus on Rotten Tomatoes level movie. That was very good. And like, I don't know. It's one of those movies where I'm like cautious to hype it up too much because I'm worried that if we send people in expecting the greatest movie ever, it won't be that because it's still a family friendly movie. But
yes. But I think it sits along the likes of like Shrek or like the one that I keep comparing it to in my head is The Princess Bride, which is one of my fucking favorite movies.
Yeah,
but it's like a family adventure movie, right?
Like it's a little bit camp. Like it's sort of like fun and like a little bit dorky.
I think
it's a kids movie.
I'm comparing it more to the classic Pixar films in my head, like something like Finding Nemo. I don't know why, but just like that feels like a really good comparison to me. Like I would encourage someone to watch this if they felt like watching something like Finding Nemo.
Yeah, that's true because Finding Nemo is similar in that it tackles like more adult concepts within a very children's friendly film.
Yeah. But I feel like this movie is just more fun. You know what I mean? Like that's one of the things that I really loved about this movie is like the set pieces and jokes are just so much fun. Like I'm thinking of Finding Nemo and I'm like, okay, what are the fun scenes in that, right? There's the fucking you're surfing with the turtles, you're avoiding the jellyfish. Like
Reuben,
I don't know if it's that fun of a movie.
No, I like maybe this is just the James Cameron in me, but every scene in a different part of the ocean is a whole new cool thing.
Finding Nemo's a great movie.
But I might just
but like I don't think it's like it's not a movie where I'm smiling and clapping during it, and I was fucking doing that in Puss in Boots.
Yeah, it's a little bit depressing. Actually, Finding Nemo can be quite sad.
Yeah, when they find the kid at the end, it's a bit of a bummer.
And he's dead. Yeah, what a twist.
Because it's over.
Dory's whole situation is very depressing.
True.
And as much as they try to make light of it, it's really upsetting.
Burrito's in this film.
Yes,
oh, yeah,
true. Burrito is the Dory of this film for sure. Okay, let's go through it in order because I feel like that'll, I don't know, structure this chat a bit more. But yeah, again, just like go see this movie. I know that's a crazy thing to say, but just do it.
And you don't need to have seen the other one. In fact, like that, like what's funny about this is I feel like this is what the first one wanted to be, or what the first one should have been.
For sure,
like there is actually not that much that is different about Puss in Boots and Puss in Boots 2, except for the execution of this one. It's just significantly better. But like from the like basic outline early storyboard phase, I don't think they're actually that different.
No, I
I
agree.
think all you need to know from the first film is that there is a character called Kitty Softpaws who is Puss's love interest.
Yeah, even then, like
you could easily infer it very quickly.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So this movie starts with an exceptional opening sequence. Puss in Boots, your favorite fearless hero, a hero outlaw who is loved by all except for authorities, and he's having a great time partying and adventuring until he dies. And that's the opening, and it's perfect. It's a perfect first 15 minutes of a film. Like, it's like frantic. It's full of great jokes and clever ideas. Like, something that I just thought was so clever is this giant colossus who wields a bell like a mace, and it's just like a cool idea. It's got great jokes in it. Like, man, this movie's great.
Yeah. It comes out of the gate swinging for sure. Like, yeah, establishes everything except Kitty Softpaws really firmly in these first 15 minutes. Like, yeah, I agree. Like, fun, sets everything up.
We've got a nice marketable song in here.
Yeah.
Antonio Banderas has a very nice voice, actually.
He does well, doesn't
actually,
he?
You know, the actual opening for the film, like, it comes up on the screen, this is a fairy tale, and then you have Antonio Banderas saying, like, starlight, star bright, and this little poem. And his voice is like so deep and soothing. I was just like,
he's so husky.
Yeah.
God, he has a good voice.
Yeah, like if he did
now.
like an audiobook or something, like I'd eat that up.
I'd be asleep in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
He is he's 62 now, so he's getting up there in age, but that's a good thing about animated films, I guess. He doesn't have to be the one running around doing the stunts. It's just a little cat.
No, this was all mocapped. He
was spinning through the air like that. Yeah,
the cartwheel thing.
Sorry,
I love that they brought that back.
Yeah, they did it a lot in this film. This would have been even more than the original Puss in Boots. And I'm like, is there more to this than just it was in Shrek 2? That was how he entered, because it just seems to be a Puss in Boots joke from the Shrek franchise.
Yeah, I love
it totally is.
It's just like, because I still laugh at it, but part of me is just baffled that they're still so gung ho at it. And I'm like, is this a reference to something though? It feels like it must also be something else. It's just weird.
But you know, it's a thing. It's a Puss in Boots thing.
Along with the way that he drinks his like milk out of the shot glass.
Yeah, he gets drunk.
They did it several times, and it was so funny every time.
And again, they've done it in the other movies too, and it's still funny.
Yeah, it's still hilarious.
It's funny every time.
And when he goes like, "I want extra cream" or whatever.
Yeah, give me some cream. Make it your heaviest.
Yeah, make it your heaviest. Yeah, I keep the heaviest about the back.
Yeah,
they did. Yeah, that was the thing that the other movie did really well at, and this one, continues to follow. So, like, I love when he digs the grave for himself and then fills it in like a cat burying the shit. Like,
because they don't do enough cat jokes for you to expect it every time.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, the jokes that he's actually a cat are spread out enough that it still works. It reminded me of also in this movie is, one of the main characters is Goldilocks and her three bears, and they keep doing the joke of, oh no, that's too hot, too cold, just right, or whatever. They do that joke a few times of like their catchphrase is basically
it's
just right.
It like they do that joke at least 20 times, and what's funny is it worked every time.
Exactly right.
So
like
every time,
I don't know how they didn't overuse it, but it was so good every single time.
I think my favorite one was where the daddy bear. I can't remember what was even happening, and the daddy bear gets something. He goes, "Oh, that is just right," and then just like falls or something. It's so good.
Because I remember being really worried because it's literally the first thing all the bears say as they're introduced.
Yes,
they do the joke in the first 10 seconds that we see them.
They're doing a good cop, bad cop thing, but the bad cop is too bad, the good cop is too soft. Like, it's great. It's so good.
Yeah, but it was like I kind of got worried when we were in the film because they did it straight away, and then they did it a second time. I'm like, oh, we're not going to do this the whole movie, are we? But they did, and I ended up not minding. Like, it worked the whole way, especially because it was so woven into like Goldilocks' whole thing, and to just like jump all around. But obviously, her whole thing is realizing that she has the family she wants, and it's very predictable. You see it coming or whatever, but like that through line of her realizing that the family she has is just right. Like, I don't know what it is, but weaving that phrase into it. It just made it work, and it feels like it shouldn't have. It feels like it should have been corny and lame, but it wasn't.
Yeah, it worked.
As I'm explaining it now, I feel like I'm making it sound stupid, and I feel like it should sound stupid summarized, but it wasn't.
I think that like things that could be corny and lame, it's all in the execution, right? And this movie does execute it well. Like there's a few things like that in this movie, like the ending is a little bit predictable. I guess for us, we're adults, so that's good. It's a kids movie, but it's still executed so well that you're emotionally invested in it.
Yeah.
I didn't have any idea what was going to happen to the wish. I thought so. I didn't even think, it didn't occur to me that they might just, nobody would make a wish. I was like, seriously, that whole last sequence, I'm going, who's gonna get the wish? Like, I was that kid.
I was thinking like, somebody would die, like Perito would die and they'd wish him back or something.
Yeah, like I thought something like that was going to happen. Like, I'm like, oh, what's going to happen to the wish? And then they just were like, but nobody. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, that works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So how about Goldie or Florence Pugh's Goldilocks voice? Fucking loved it.
Penny and I watched some behind the scenes footage of it on the train, and it is so fun to watch and be like, it actually just is Florence Pugh doing a crazy Goldilocks, like, London kind of chavvy voice.
Yeah. And I guess just I thought the like character design of Goldilocks was also like, she just came on screen for the first time and I was like, oh, she's rad. And she was.
Yeah, they had she looked really cool.
Yeah.
I think there will never be a more shocking twist in cinema than finding out Olivia Colman voiced the Mama Bear. What a twist that was. Good times. So yeah, and Puss in Boots has died, but oh wait, no shit, we still got so much to talk about. Fuck. The other thing I wanted to talk about at this point was like the look of this film, which is the animation. So it's weird, like it's so gorgeous, like it looks really good, but then some of the animation is like low frame rate. And
it's in all the big action scenes, and it's like for most of it, they seem to try to play it off like it's an artistic choice.
Yes.
Like a few of them reminded me of Into the Spider-Verse. Kind of did the same thing.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Yes.
Yeah.
It didn't quite work as well. It just felt a little bit. It was overused a little bit. Like not heaps, but a little bit, I thought.
I have to assume it was a budgetary choice that they tried to spin into an artistic one. It was like, oh, we don't have the money to animate all these really fluid fighting scenes. So we can like lean into this artistic choice to make them cheaper. But like, there's no other evidence of any budget cuts anywhere. So that doesn't feel right. But it also just, I can't believe it was a genuine artistic choice because I didn't like it. And nobody would make it a choice that I don't like. They didn't lean into
it quite enough for it to work. Like, you know how Into the Spider-Verse, it's like, it was a very comic booky feel. Like they had like the paint and stuff around. Whereas this one, they just kind of, it just weirdly slowed down for random bits in the action scenes.
Into the Spider-Verse was also very much a movie that was meshing different artistic styles together. Like every universe was a different artistic style. So doing fight scenes with a weird artistic spin like that made sense because like that was a thing the movie was obviously doing the whole time. Whereas this one felt more weird because the rest of the movie is just like normal animated and it's just like suddenly some artistic stuff.
Yeah, it was interesting. I guess it must have been a budgetary thing, but then like I'm thinking about it, and there were other things they did which felt like much better stylistic integrations, but also being ways to cut costs. Like there was a bit in the fight between Puss and the big bad wolf, where you see the fight from the other side of the fire, and it's like it's like almost shadow puppety for like, I don't know, not that long, for like 5 or 10 seconds or whatever. And that's like, okay, that's a cool way to kind of cut down costs because you just need to animate the shapes. You don't need to do lighting or whatever. But still kind of have a cool stylistic thing. Like, I feel like they could have done more like that. I don't know. Maybe it was just a stylistic choice.
Yeah. And it wasn't terrible. Like, it didn't ruin the action sequences. It just was more like, I noticed it and I was like, oh, that's sort of interesting. And then I just kind of forgot about it.
Like, I guess for me, every time it came up, I was like, couldn't this just have been fluid? That would have been cool.
Yeah, like I was a bit like, I felt like I was missing what the point of it was, but it didn't bother me a lot.
Like, I guess something that used to come up a lot when we did Game Club, Reuben, and I'm trying to think about a lot again these days is like, there's sort of two ways you can approach stuff like this. Like it's either like like the people making this are always trying to do something, and it's a question of, did they just do something that I didn't like but do it well, or were they trying to do something and didn't pull it off? And this is one of those things where I'm like, I don't have a concept for what they could have been trying to do, which is why I've lent on the side of like, it must have been something and they didn't pull it off, because like there are things that I don't like, but I'm like, yeah, but that's just because it's not for me. And
there's one or two parts I can think of it actually working quite well, and like just small bits. And I think one of them is there's a scene in this opening sequence where the giant mountain golem, whatever, is like running, like sprinting towards Puss in Boots, and doing this almost anime style run, I guess, where it's like,
it's like the bridge fight in Arcane.
Yeah, exactly. And the kind of lower frame rate thing, I guess, emphasized the like heaviness of the running there, I think, quite well.
Sure.
But you're right. There are a lot of times where I noticed it and it was more of a distraction than it was an enhancement, I guess.
Yeah, it wasn't really adding anything. It's just sort of there.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't take away from anything except just being kind of like, oh, that was weird.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, Puss in Boots has died, but never fear, he has 9 lives. But he talks to the vet and reminisces through his deaths and realizes, oh shit, you're on your final one. So he has a close brush with a bounty hunter, but realizing, oh shit, I could actually die here. So he decides to run away and go into hiding in a cat sanctuary / spinster's house.
Yeah. Now, obviously, this is nothing, and it's just me overthinking it. But like, if he lived to a very old age,
and then
on his first life, what happens when he dies of natural causes? Does he get 8 very quick old lives? No. Or, like, why does he not reset to a babby?
I was actually wondering that too. I feel like they get 9 deaths, but that they age at a normal rate was my assumption, but I don't actually know that.
But that's like, so if you just got really old, like if I was like, 97 and my body's like failing and I die, do I then just come back and die again 8 times really quickly?
But maybe, but I feel like it's more like traumatic deaths is the purpose here.
I think I'm probably the least medically informed of the three of us, but like, isn't it where like, dying of old age isn't really a thing, but actually, old age just like has a lot of things that are caused by your cells starting to degenerate over time, blah blah blah. Like
it's just kind of like pick which organ's going to fail first.
Exactly.
You die from a specific organ failing.
Dying of old age, it's just kind of a blanket term for like something went wrong, but it's like nothing specific happened. It was just your body's old enough that it was bound to happen eventually.
One of your organs just failed.
So like. He gets healed after his death. So probably what happens is, oh shit, his liver failed or his heart gave out or whatever. That gets repaired, but you're still the same age, so stuff's still going to go wrong. You know what I mean?
So you just got to tick through all your organs one by one.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, your heart could give out twice before your pancreas or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Well, what are we talking about?
Hannah talks about cat pancreases a lot, I feel like.
So you should know all this stuff by now. This sequence of Puss in Boots' past lives and how he died, very good.
That was really funny.
Again, another one of those moments where it started and I was like, oh, we're going to do all 8 of these. And then I ended up enjoying all 8.
They were so good, yeah.
I kept having moments where I didn't trust this movie and I kept being like, oh, really, really going to do this? And then they would, and it worked. And I was like, by the end, I just was so willing to trust this movie.
I really liked the one where he was like weightlifting and his Puss in Boots doesn't need a spotter.
It was so well done, like the variability of each one, and then like the order was so good. Like it was great comedy sort of stuff where they'd like start setting up a beat where it was like him doing arrogant stuff, then it would just be something real stupid. Like the flow was really funny.
And the way that each one cuts to a kind of graphic that demonstrates that this is the death. Like it's just so stylistic and cool.
Yeah, like we never actually saw him die, but it was very obvious how he died some pretty bad deaths too.
And weirdly becomes like a really important moment at the end of the film when he is confronted by his 8 past selves from each of those deaths. Like
just to make the what have you learned over the course of this movie kind of land, and it worked really well. I was hoping that this movie would do something that it didn't do, which was have a like I guess almost like a Smash Bros big bad wolf kind of title card, like Kitty Softpaws, the Three Bears,
Yes,
Jack Horner.
it felt like they needed that.
Yeah.
I agree.
Just like a cool graphic that's here's who this character is, here's a little picture of them. It did the wanted posters for each of them, which I guess was a version of that.
Oh yeah, that wasn't bad.
Did they do one for spoilers, death?
No, they didn't do one for the wolf.
Yeah.
Well, no, because he was mysterious.
Yeah.
I guess.
And he wasn't really, I don't know, a bounty hunter. He wasn't I don't know what
wanted
he was. He was
poster for
metaphysical.
Yeah.
It was funny. This is like the one part of the movie, like the reveal that, because I guessed that he was death when he showed up in the first time he showed up, like when they were in the dark forest, like it was like the fight
really?
going
I
on.
think the first scene he was in, it was obvious he was dead.
Really?
He was wearing a black coat.
Yeah, and he has
I
two
just thought
little
that was imagery.
And he had two
mini
scythes.
Yeah. No, but I
picked up on it straight
They weren't
away.
scythes; they were circle swords.
They were
Yeah.
like
They
were
were
supposed to be like
mini
scythes.
scythes.
though.
No,
Okay.
it didn't click for me at the very start, but when there's the bit where you hear his whistle as they're escaping from Jack Horner and he kind of just appears, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
He's not. He's metaphorical or magical or something.
I guess I just didn't want to believe that he was death because I watched the latest season of American Horror Story like earlier this week, and they also had a bad guy who just turned out to be a manifestation. Well, very specifically in American Horror Story, it was AIDS, not like just death. But that one did it really poorly. So part of me was like, oh my God, am I watching another thing that has a bad guy that's just going to turn out to be a manifestation of death? But it worked. I mean, it worked in this. I guess it was just I didn't respond to it as well as I might have just because I'd been disappointed by the exact same twist in something like 2 days earlier.
I'm trying to think how I picked up on it because I feel like I pretty much instantly, I was like, oh, this guy's like death. And I'm not normally very clever at stuff like that. So I'm trying to think what it was, but I don't know if it was just because of also just the theme. Like it was obvious that the fact that Puss was on his last life and that he'd really wasted them. But I was trying to figure out, I'm like, why is he after him when he still has a life left? And then they answered that partway through.
Because like it was obvious. The vague thing of like him getting a person he can't beat while he's now mortal. Like I was like, oh yeah, but I definitely didn't make the leap to being death.
I think there was something about like the things that Death was saying. Like he was saying,
maybe
he was just commenting things that I don't know for whatever reason. I just
talking about how nobody ever avoids me, and I think there was
all those kinds of things.
Before we got to that scene, the vet had literally said to Puss, like, "You can't run from death forever," or something like that.
Yeah. Death comes for us all. I think is what he said.
Yeah, but I don't know. It didn't click for me till he came back at another point. Sure. And then I was like, oh, and just I don't know.
Well, I think something that made it work quite well is like I was kind of thinking that death was just kind of in Puss's mind. He was running from this manifestation of his own fears, but that because nobody else had ever seen this thing. Like it only came out when he was by himself, or nobody else was seeing it. But then no. It's literally there. Like death has literally come because he doesn't value his life, like fucking Jigsaw from
Puss
Saw
so much.
Yeah, and then they have a literal sword fight that he wins. Like I was like, okay, taking this and making it like death is actually here for you physically. That really worked for me, I think.
And then I like how Kitty Softpaws. She's like, I thought you meant like
yeah.
He was theoretically or metaphysically
that's
or something
what I
coming
thought.
for you. She's like, I didn't think that you I found myself wondering as well. I was like, I can't tell if this is like
it really wasn't
until
or
whether until he actually everybody went, who's that? And then you're like, okay, everybody can see him.
Yeah, the first time everyone else saw him was on the star at the end.
Well, there was a really funny bit where Puss runs in and goes, "Death is coming for me," and then Jack Horner rocks up and is like, "I haven't been called that before, but I'll take it." I was like, that's a badass line.
I don't know. I guess it was funny. Like I thought it was a cool idea. It really after hating American Horror Story's latest season so much, I was just not in the right space for it. Yeah, bad season. Don't watch season 11 of American Horror Story, everyone.
I wasn't going to.
I mean, didn't everyone fall off that show after like series 3.5, maybe?
I couldn't have told you it was anywhere near 11. I would have thought it was like 4.
No, series 10 was really good. They did like a 1984 like summer camp.
Which one was the one about?
That was great.
I think vampires in a kind of Stephen King vibe.
That was I think that was 5. Was that Hotel with Lady Gaga?
No. The one where it's like an author who go. It's very like.
Oh,
Stephen King.
sorry, that was last year. That was the first half of double feature. They did the vampires. Yeah, and then it transitioned halfway through the season to being about aliens. That one was fine. But the summer camp one was really good. That show's very inconsistent, which is part of why I love watching it, because you just don't know what you're signing up for.
Yeah. So yeah, Puss in Boots is forced out of retirement. His cat sanctuary is attacked by the 3 bears. He hears from them about a star that will grant wishes and decides to steal the map to it from Jack Horner. And we get another great action sequence here.
This cat sanctuary was fucking hilarious. Like, I enjoyed all the jokes here about like old cat ladies and stuff.
Yep.
And he's like looking at the litter box and he's like, so this is where dignity goes to die.
And like when Burrito shows up and he's a dog in like a shit cat costume.
Yeah, he's got the like knitted hat with the little cat face and cat ears on it. So good. But his really tail's wagging.
Yeah.
So cute.
And like even the lady running it, like I fucking love when the bears start tearing her house apart and she's like, I've told you, health inspectors, there's no cats in. It's like it's literally 100 cats in the frame.
Yeah.
It's just
there's no cats here.
It's so stupid, but it really worked.
And when Puss is trying to like, you know, he's trying to like cook himself normal food and things and just keeps squirting him with the spray bottle. We tried that on our cats very briefly. It didn't work.
What didn't work?
Well, because they've got no concept of like, I don't think they're very good at realizing what they should and shouldn't do. So it's like you squirt them with the bottle and they just get really pissed off. But like,
they don't,
or not even that pissed off. They're kind of just like, ugh. And then
like,
they just
what are you doing?
Keep doing it anyway. Like they do whatever they want, regardless of what you think. I think the only thing they've picked up on is that we don't want them to go under the house, which they still do, but they do know that they're doing the wrong thing. But everything else that they act like they've never been told off for that ever before in their life.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's kind of funny because there's one part where they can access like under the house, and when one of them they specifically wait for you to not be watching them, and then they start creeping towards there, and if you see them and you like say their name and stand up, they run away from it. So it's like they know what they're doing is wrong, but then the second you turn your back again, they're going to start heading for it all over again.
Yeah, today Chadwick slowly started walking over to it, and Hannah and I were both just staring at him the whole time, and he kept looking back, and then he'd be like, and then keep walking over there. And then he'd look back and we're both still staring at him. He's like, oh. And then eventually he just turned around and walked back the other way. It's like, well, the only reason he could have been going over there was to go under the house. Like, naughty cat.
And because it's so, like, he always comes out. It's like, because like our house is just like on top of piles of bricks.
It's disgusting under there.
Yeah. And it's about like half a meter tall, and it's just full of cobwebs and stuff. So he always comes out fucking filthy, and it's just like, please stop going under there.
Your cats are so badly behaved.
Because sometimes I go in between. I've gone in between our like house and the neighbor's house to try and grab the cats when they're under there, and there's literally like skeletons. Like there's all these like rodent vertebrae. Like there's an actual whole spine and like a skull sitting between the houses.
I didn't know
disgusting.
About that.
Yeah, and then I just stare at those. And one time I got stuck in there with Lexi for like 30 minutes before Hannah got home, and I'm just staring at this skeleton. I was like, this is disgusting.
Yeah.
Cats.
Where are we up to? Speaking of cats, so this is the sequence where we're in Jack Horner's pastry factory, I guess. And we get the setup of all the fairy tale shit, like the Hand of Midas, which is fun, and then just a bunch of foreshadowing for Jack Horner's bag of tricks that he pulls out later, and it's very fun just having them all be kind of introduced and then knowing as they get reintroduced later, oh yeah, shit, this is this is gonna be great. Like, yeah, it's really fun.
They set up he has an extensive collection of fairy tale and mythological
trinkets
items, and then he packs them all in this bag of holding.
I like that they just did a very brief but like believable backstory for him with just one quick sequence where they essentially established the reason he collects all these magical trinkets is that he's just a nursery rhyme, not a fairy tale, and he's got no magic. He's just a boy.
Yeah.
And so, he's sort of very jealous. But the best thing is that they have it as like he's sort of performing and he's sticking his thumb in the pie and nobody cares. And then they flick over to Pinocchio, and he's like talking, and then he just flicks back to Jack and he goes, "But I'm always a real boy," or something. I was already a real boy. It's like
Very
so
good.
funny.
Yeah, worth noting, Pinocchio and Gingy are in this film.
Shrek's in a shot.
There's a shot of Shrek. We get a stinger that implies that they're heading back to Far, Far Away to hang out with Shrek and Fiona. Presumably, there's another Shrek movie in the works. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing, like in line with that, is obviously there's the new DreamWorks like opening thing.
Yes,
like they're like Georgia compared it to the MCU one, which I love.
It really is like that, isn't it?
But that one ends on like a big shot of Shrek, Fiona, and Donkey.
Yeah.
And part of me is just like, you wouldn't do that for a legacy franchise, I don't think. Like they have to be working on more.
Shrek was the franchise that made DreamWorks. Like literally,
100%.
It was the founding movie that they did, wasn't it? Like,
but yeah, I guess between redefining that, like that's how their opening ends, and then also this movie teasing a return to Far, Far Away. It would be wild to me if we weren't that they're not actively working on a Shrek film.
It does feel like this is the pre-announcement of, hey, there's a Shrek. Another Shrek's on its way.
Shrek, are we up to 6?
5.
God knows.
But at one point they were planning a reboot, so I don't know what to expect.
Hey, this reminds me of something that's a major tangent, but there was a question on Only Connect. It was a sequences round question, and it was Rumpelstiltskin, Prince Charming, Fairy Godmother. Now, do you know what comes next, Elliot?
Lord Farquaad.
You're correct, and it was great.
I mean, the context of you asking
the context
that really
helps.
helped.
I know, but it was a very fun question to be like, oh, that's fucking Shrek. They're doing a Shrek question.
So, to be clear, for anyone who doesn't know, they give you 3 things and you have to tell them what the 4th in the sequence should be.
So
that was backwards
the villains
Shrek
of the
movies.
Shrek.
That was like,
movies.
Did anybody see the Best of Redditor update today? That was like a girl and her brother and her sister-in-law arguing over their next baby's name. The first son's name
suggesting
was
Shrek.
Yeah, no, the first baby's name was Richard, or Ricky for short. The next one was Jason, or Jace for short. And then they were having a girl, and the dad had named both of the sons, and he was adamant that it be Stephanie. But the mum had always wanted a girl and was really set on the name Chloe. And so this sister-in-law posts, because she was getting called out because she fessed up to the sister-in-law that they had no great aunt Stephanie, which is what the brother was trying to pull off, that there was some great aunt Stephanie he wanted to name the kid after. And anyway, and then it gets called out on Reddit that he is secretly naming the kids after all the different Robins, like Batman's sidekick Robin.
Like Batman, okay.
So like Richard, like Dick Grayson,
and Jason Todd.
Yeah. And then there's apparently a Stephanie Brown, which I didn't know. And
is that Batgirl's name?
No, that's Babs.
Sure.
So I don't know, it's another Robin.
Okay, I've pulled it up.
But the best was that the way it got called out was a commenter went, I'm seeing a pattern here. Is there any chance that if there's another son, he wants to call it Tim? Yeah. And she goes, yes, if it was a boy, he really wanted it called Tim. How did you know that? And they're like, these are all of the names of all the Robins. And she was like, he's so dead.
Oh, yeah, fuck. Busted.
So anyway, the daughter's being named Chloe.
That's so funny. Oh, my God.
I love Best of Redditor updates, so that was one of the best ones I've seen.
Yeah, that's very funny.
The sister writing, he is so dead. And then the update is like, my mum killed him. So funny.
Because I can respect the like trying to name your kids out, but it's like
doing a naming theme.
It's when you start actively trying to deceive your partner about it that you've crossed the line.
Yeah.
I'm even kind of okay with lying by omission about it. Like if she doesn't notice or whatever, and if he's just suggesting names and she goes, "Oh, that's nice," and like goes along with it, and he's kind of doesn't tell her the pattern. that's fine. But then as soon as she pushed back on one, it was like, no. If you're going to push for it, then you have to be up front.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wild
especially
story.
he tried to sell it as great Aunt Stephanie. Like, come
Yeah,
on.
like exactly. But even that way, if you had your first son Mario and your second son Luigi, and then the third girl's coming, and you're pushing for the name Peach, and that's the first one she pushes back on. It's like, you got to fess up.
I really want to
No.
name our son after my great uncle Wario.
My brother-in-law Bowser. I mean, you would think that she would know her own brother's name, though, so that probably wouldn't work.
Yeah, but that's part of this for me. I still don't understand these couples who are like this, where it's like, apparently this dude is so Batman obsessed that he's naming all of his kids after Batman characters, but she doesn't know
anything
Batman,
about
like at all.
yeah.
No, a lot of my friends, like, their partners are like into, anime or Star Wars or something, and like I'll have these really in-depth chats with them about it, and their wives literally despise it.
Yeah, it's the literally despising that gets to me. I kind of get like not being as obsessed, but like I don't know.
Okay, maybe not despise might be too strong, but they're not interested at all. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I just couldn't see myself, and this is partially because my ex was a bit like this, maybe. But like I don't know, like I feel like you gotta at least have some overlap there. Like they don't need to be Batman obsessed like you. That's asking a bit much. But it's just
like, hey, do you want to watch the new Harley Quinn show? You want them to be like, yeah, I'd like to watch that with you. Yeah, that's
they've
what I was into.
They've got to at least like want to be involved. Yeah, like they don't have they don't have to love Pale or whatever, but like at this point I feel like if I was dating someone I'd be like, you should try out Pale, and if they hated it then it's like that's going to be weird.
Yeah, and I suppose it depends how obsessed we're talking, because it's like,
yeah,
Ben and I will always talk about Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z Super and that kind of stuff. I wouldn't say either of us are obsessed with it, but we just both enjoy it. Elise has no interest in it, and I'm kind of like, that's fine.
Yeah. It depends how obsessed you are about a thing. Like,
yeah, if it's just something that you really enjoy and you've watched all of it, and your partner just doesn't watch all of it, I think that's okay. Which is probably what most.
But then that's not the sort of thing you try and name your kids after. You know what I mean? Like this dude clearly fucking loves Batman, or if he doesn't, then I have other questions for him. Like if he's a casual Batman fan, but he's really leaned into this, I want to know what that's about.
Yeah. He really wanted to get into Batman, but needed an excuse, so he thought, all right, let's go with this. Puss and Kitty Softpaws, Selma Hayek's character from the first film, who's back, and that's fun. They steal the map, and along with Purito, travel to the Dark Forest. Goldilocks and Jack Horner are in hot pursuit. And now we get to the second half of this movie, which is them kind of adventuring through set pieces in the Dark Forest while the map kind of changes hands and they try and catch each other and, get in scraps.
Yeah, the setup that the forest changes based on who's holding the map, and it's like obstacles specifically put in your path, like to do with your wish. It's so good. Just a great idea. And then they execute it great because it can change as it changes hands, so that allows them to fully change set pieces or half change some set pieces if it like gets closed while it's moved. Like, a really cool idea, well executed.
Yeah.
And also just the idea that like, so Kitty Softpaws is really distrusting. Like she doesn't trust anybody. And she's got this whole thing about like Purito, because who, by the way, at this point in the story does not have a name. They're just calling him what I assume is Spanish for dog.
Yeah.
Like, and he actually officially has no name at this point. But anyway, she's like, he's being really nice. And she's like, I call bullshit. She's like, I call bullshit. Like this, nobody's this nice. And then they get the map and it's like, Puss presses on it and it's like, the mountains of despair and all the like whatever. And then the Kitty Softpaws, it's like all really depressing. And then he presses it and it's just like rainbows and flowers,
the
and
river
sunshine.
Of relaxation.
Yeah. And then it was like the something of quick solutions or something. It's like
the forest of quick and easy solutions.
Yeah. And they're just like, all right, you can hold the map. And you're just like, oh, he's just, I mean, I find it ridiculous that they have a character who is a chihuahua who is supposed to be really nice. But putting that aside, he's just such an adorable character.
In the previous movie, the third member of their group was Humpty Dumpty, who did end up betraying them at the end. So maybe that's what she's going off of.
Yeah. That's a really good point.
Yeah, totally. Puss shows up with another friend and she's like, yeah, no.
Yeah, I'm not falling for this again. Yeah, I mean, and Perito is such a fun character because, he is just so innocent, and that, again, that should feel silly and overly exaggerated, but it just works because he's in contrast to Kitty and Puss, who are both so self-focused and
and
untrusting
and
manipulative. Like, they're constantly trying to out-manipulate each other and everyone around them, and he's just here to hang out with his best friends, team friendship.
Yeah.
That's what he's here for.
Can I talk about? I think my favorite scene where I was fully laughing in the cinema was when when they're in the cat sanctuary and Puss is really depressed, and he's like, "Pat my belly," and Puss is like, "Hard pass," and it's he's got this really hormonal looking pot belly that comes flying out of his little sweater, and it's covered in scars, and there's no fur on it, it's disgusting. And he's like, "Pat my belly." "Oh yeah, I'm gonna be a therapy dog," and it's just so cute. It's sad.
But then he does work as a therapy dog, because when Puss in Boots has the panic attack later in the movie, he comes and puts his head on it, and it works.
That.
It was so good.
It was so good.
It shouldn't work, but it does. This movie comes together just so insanely well.
In a really similar way to how Donkey was such a good foil for Shrek. Perito is a really good foil for both Puss and Kitty Softpaws.
Such a genuine character.
I
think that's what makes them so endearing. They're just so genuine consistently. I was so happy there wasn't a betrayal at the end. It was a really nice, happy vibe.
I mean, we have to talk about his backstory.
So sad.
Which he delivers laughing like it's the funniest, sweetest story. Which is just so.
Well, because they lean into that angle of the kid who's being bullied, but doesn't realize he's being bullied. He just thinks it's all games. It's they play hide and seek with me, so they tie me up, dump me somewhere, and then I'd have to spend days tracking them down and finding them again. And your heart starts to break. And it was then I got really bad because they stuck me in a big sock with a bunch of rocks and put me in the river.
And he's laughing hysterically while he says it. And Puss and Kitty both just have their hands over their mouths. They're like, "Oh God."
So did I, honestly. My heart was breaking.
And then he's like, "But joke's on them. I turned the sock into a sweater, and now I got a free sweater as well." And you're like, "Oh my God." She goes, "That's the saddest, funny story I've ever heard."
It's just the saddest story I've ever heard.
And he's like, "I still haven't found them. I guess I'm still it." So sad. Oh.
Good times.
Yeah. Good stuff. So it's fun that Selma Hayek is back as a recurring character. It's weird, you don't expect a movie that's a sequel 12 years after the fact to worry about continuity at all, but Selma Hayek's back. This movie references the Shrek films, which the previous one never did. It just feels much more of a chill vibe.
It almost has that thing where this one makes me wonder if some of the people who put this together are people who grew up on Shrek. It's people who are probably our age or so at DreamWorks.
Yeah, true.
And it was this was there was discussions at DreamWorks about, let's make another Puss in Boots film, because I think they had the Netflix show that did quite well. And there were probably a bunch of millennial DreamWorks employees who were just desperate to get in on that, because they're this movie cares more about being in the Shrek universe than the last one did, as you said. And part of me feels that's probably the younger generation, using this as their excuse to work on a Shrek film. Because there's got to be a lot of employees in the lower ranks at DreamWorks who just grew up with these movies like we did.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. Yeah.
Also, I thought this was funny too, because Kitty Softpaws is not in the TV show.
Yes.
So I thought it was interesting that they still sort of cared enough about the continuity of the other movie to include her, because I assumed this movie exists because the TV show seemingly did quite well.
Yeah,
but
I had no idea.
But this movie has nothing to do with that TV show, so maybe that guess is just wrong.
Yeah, Selma Hayek also has a very good voice.
She does.
Yes, they are very fun.
Yeah, great choices.
I'm just obsessed with her. There's a Adventures of Puss in Boots wiki, and the Kitty Softpaws entry on this is just fucking hilarious. The description of her like biography is like it outlines like the Puss in Boots, the first movie, and the final sentence is she then becomes Puss's girlfriend a while after she and Puss dance. Then the cats finally kiss on the lips.
What a perv.
Kiss on the lips.
Definitely
really just...
written by like a 12-year-old.
I mean, I think this wiki, like the Adventures of Puss in Boots, I think is the TV show. So this is primarily for the Netflix show, which means like, yeah, the oldest person who's ever watched it probably is like 11. Her trivia is also good. Georgia pointed out this one trivia entry, which is she is tough, but has a sweet side to her. That's some Kitty Softpaws trivia for you.
And we have Kitty Softpaws is naturally up to Puss in Boots level in Fi. F-I.
I must be fighting.
They went to write fighting and then they got sidetracked.
Then their mum came in and called them for dinner. I'll publish. I'll just edit this later.
Kitty blew Puss a kiss 2 times. They almost kissed, and they passionately kissed one time. And they exchanged a lot of eye contact.
This is only trivia.
This is still, these are still trivia points.
This is also a kid who's maybe developing into a furry slowly, I feel like.
Slowly?
Okay, rapidly.
I like this. This is the last Kitty Softpaws trivia. Though Kitty appears to be the same height as Puss, her boots have heels in them, and his don't, so she should possibly be shorter than Puss. That's actually a fun little detail. Like, I love that one.
Oh, that's good stuff.
Also, there's this weird line right at the start where it says, she is voiced by Salma Hayek, like Puss.
Famously voiced by Salma Hayek, Puss in Boots.
I'm trying to think what they meant.
She's voiced by Salma Hayek like Puss. It doesn't make sense, does it? Maybe they just mean like Puss is also voice acted by somebody.
By a human being. This is not a real cat, people. Not a real cat.
Because it's a talking cat, like, she is voiced like Puss. Close brackets.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, just because she's got a voice.
Meaning like, this is a talking animal.
Yeah. Yeah, anyway.
Her aliases are Miss Softpaws, Baby, Kitty, and Bad Kitty. And then that one in brackets has by Puss in Boots.
It was that same horny 11-year-old.
Who calls her Baby if not Puss in Boots?
Yeah, I don't know why that one's spelled, because it's got to be Puss for both of them. Yeah.
So can we quickly talk again about some Jack Horner moments that happen when they're traveling through the dark forest? Because they're very fun. Jack Horner is kind of flanked by his baker's dozen, 13 bakers wielding different baking implements / weapons. And they're very fun. And he, like, pulls out a phoenix and uses it as a flamethrower, or does all kinds of miscellaneous
The unicorn
tricks.
horns.
The unicorn horns, very good. Very, very, again, like, Jack Horner murders people with those things, right? Like, that's crazy. So yeah, good times.
Sorry, I'm still on the wiki, and I know I'm pulling us off, but like, I've just gone to the page for Dulcinea.
Okay.
I'll just read the thing. Dulcinea, aka White, is the Dutra agonist and one of the main characters in the series The Adventures of Puss in Boots. She is the leader of the Dulcinea charge and is voiced by Jama Mays. I need to leave. I can't be here.
Wait, what? Is that a quote?
I've just read that verbatim.
It's like Monty Python, like, oh, like my mom's just walked in. I need to leave.
I'm just posting it in our doc for you to read, Reuben. This is the opening paragraph
There's
of
no
her.
full stop at the end of it.
It just says, I need to leave. God, that's the funnest thing about some of the things we do earlier, is we get to dive down the weirdest fucking wikis.
It's sort of really creepy.
Wait, Georgia, have Reuben and I told you the story of the paranormal wiki that we found?
Oh no! Wait, no, there was the one for
tornadoes and stuff.
Yes, yeah.
Not,
we talked about
not
that.
just tornadoes. Sorry, fiction.
Should we tell this story on this podcast?
I think we've told it on this show before.
I feel like we've
Have
done
we?
it on
Okay.
the show already, because I
Okay.
feel like we fully talked about it.
But it's very funny.
We got to start playing No More Jockeys again.
I think the funnest bit of it was realizing, oh, this is a paranormal wiki, but full of fictional paranormal things. And then kind of the moment of like, well, actually, they're all fictional. So why is this that weird?
Yeah, it was so funny. Yeah, it was like fictional tornadoes, fictional tsunamis. Yeah, and there's like fictional paranormal events. It's like, well, hold on.
Yeah, like that's just normal paranormal.
I need to leave. I can't be. It's so ominous.
All right.
I hope the person who wrote this page is okay.
Yeah. So,
their mum's like, if I catch you on that fucking Puss in Boots wiki ever again, I'm gonna kill you. And they're just suddenly like, oh god, I can't be here.
Okay, so they arrive at the Star and they have a big fight and they kind of realize, oh, what we were going to wish for actually is right in front of us the whole time. And it actually the bit with the stuff with Goldilocks, we haven't really talked about it, but her journey is kind of, she has this idea of, she's an orphan, she stumbled across these bears and got took in by them, and she wants to kind of wish that she had a real family, in air quotes, and realizing, oh, actually, the bears are my real family. Well, yeah, she calls it a real family, right? And that's very tragic when she reveals to them, like, no, I'm going to wish for a, in air quotes, real family. Made me cry a bit. The bit at the end when she decides to save Baby Bear instead of making her wish. So good. Great movie. Love it.
Yeah.
I liked when, there's a scene where the bears are kind of pressuring her. So like fairly early on, we learn that Goldie has an idea for what kind of wish she's going to have, and it's going to make everything just right. But she hasn't actually told any of her bear family about what it is. And so they're kind of sort of guessing and asking her intermittently, and then eventually they sort of pressure her and she reveals that she's going to wish for a human family, and they're obviously really devastated. And then it's like, instead of like freaking out or betraying her, it's so touching. The mum bear's just like, well, if that's what you want, then we'll help you get that. And I was like, that is so beautiful. It was so nice.
It's one of those plot lines though, where it's like because the map literally tells her, like, it gives them the cabin very early on in the movie, and it's like, maybe what you wished for is right in front of you all along. Then puts them in her house. And there's just this moment where you just kind of want to slap her on the face and be like, how do you not see this?
Yeah. That hasn't even made it that cryptic. What you're wishing for is right in front of you, Goldie. Take a moment.
The movie literally tells her the lesson she learns 45 minutes later, and part of you is just like, oh, come on, Goldie. But that's, that's not a real criticism. That was like, that just shows how engaged I was with the plot. That I was like, you can't be serious that you're still doing this.
Yeah.
I got distracted by the wiki before, but you were talking about Jack Horner and how funny he was, and we haven't even talked about Jiminy Cricket.
No, right.
And that, like, again, another thing
more than you expect.
Yeah, just another another example of this movie introducing something and me being like, I don't think this is going to work that well, and it really did. Like Jack Horner getting Jiminy Cricket and him being like, I'm your conscience, I'm going to help you be a good person, and then just constantly failing because Jack Horner had nothing good about him, was always hilarious.
It was very funny.
When he pulls him out and he's like, and he thinks that he's like a magic
demon or
a magic locust that will
Well,
eat
I thought it was going to be Tinkerbell at first.
And he's like, go magic locust and eat all these plants. And he's like, oh no, I just sit on your shoulder and I'm your conscience. And he's like, oh, I'm really overpacked. And then he just sits on his shoulder and just like tells him off for doing all the horrible things he's doing the whole movie, and then at the end he's just like, you're irredeemable and evil.
It really adds to Horner's, like, the horrible things he's doing, that he has Jiminy Cricket on his shoulder being like, you can't be serious, please stop.
Like he yells something like when all of like his head like Baker's dozen people, like they all fall off a cliff, and he's just like, oh my god, that's horrible.
One of my favorites is he says, I'm beginning to think you don't value human life. So good. Fuck
and he's like, no, I don't. Then he's like, I've really got my work cut out for me on this one.
No, my favorite bit was the one where Jack Horner goes to tell him his backstory, and Jiminy Cricket gets really excited that he can see why this guy is so flawed, and it just there's no reason for it. He's like, yeah, I grew up rich, my parents loved me, like I really wasn't wanting for anything, I just wanted more. There's just this part of Jiminy Cricket that dies when he sees that there's
He does a face palm, I'm pretty sure.
there's just nothing here. It's so funny.
So good.
Yeah.
And he comes back in the end, I think. I can't remember what he does, though.
Yeah, they're the ones who finally sort of kill Jack. Jack looks like he's about to escape off the star as it's crumbling. And then Jiminy Cricket rides in on the Phoenix and makes sure he can't, and then he Terminators into the star.
Yeah, that's right. And he goes, what did I do to deserve this? And there's just a pause, and he goes, I mean specifically. And then he just dies.
Oh, so good. But yeah, I mean, that's the movie. Great. It's such a good movie. And next time we have to go back to fucking Jurassic Park.
Not just this. I'm just going to put it out there. The one we're about to watch, Fallen Kingdom, is the worst Jurassic World film, which makes it the worst Jurassic Park film.
Can't wait.
Yeah, it's going to be. I think this thing will be fun to cover for the high ground because we're going to get to rag on it, but it's not a good movie.
Well, two things to make us feel a little better that pertain to when we hung out after this, we were watching this movie. The result of the race, Reuben.
Oh, sorry, I forgot. Yes.
Elliot took the tram, and I walked from Chinatown to
Town Hall Station.
The QVB.
Yeah, really. The QVB. Yeah. Elliot won by a fair bit, actually.
No, 30 seconds.
Not as much as he. Yeah, I guess 30 seconds.
Is that a lot?
But Elliot also forgot to tap off.
So I lost about a minute to forget because I was in a rush because I was in a race. I forgot to tap off, so then I had to walk back to tap off.
And then he also met me on the corner rather than where we'd agreed to meet out front of Gorman. But I also wasn't sure that Elliot knew what Gorman was or where it was.
I still don't know what that is.
Okay.
So it wasn't a fair race.
And then the other thing that came up when we were having dinner was that neither of you two have really watched the How to Train Your Dragon series.
No, I have.
You have? But you were asking me what's this bit in?
Oh yeah, that's just my memory being shit. I've seen all three of them.
Well, Reuben hasn't seen them.
No, I haven't.
They're such good. I actually think you'll really like them, Reuben. I think we should consider doing that after the Jurassic series.
I think they'd be a good franchise for this show.
Yeah,
in that same really intro MCU style intro thing for the DreamWorks logo, there was the previous movie they did was called The Bad Guys, which I did see and really liked and didn't realize it was DreamWorks. But really, I'm starting to realize DreamWorks just fucking is hit after hit, huh?
Yeah,
I don't know if Scott and Elise are still planning to do parenting with Pixar, but we've got to come up with a rival. We'll do the DreamWorks rival show. We'll cover all the DreamWorks films. You and Penny are dinking with DreamWorks rather than parenting with Pixar or something.
Dinking. That's what Penny and I do.
What is dinking?
Double income, no kids.
Oh, I see. Okay. Oh, that actually is a good joke.
I had no idea what that word meant.
Okay, so I'm looking through these movies. We got, they did The Prince of Egypt and Spirit. Those are the real fails.
Prince of Egypt, very good.
Prince of Egypt, as somebody who's not Christian, fucking banger of a film.
Yeah.
Shrek, Madagascar, Kung Fu Panda, Monsters vs. Aliens, How to Train Your Dragon, Megamind. The Croods, which I've never seen, but
no,
I've heard
I only saw Megamind for the first time a couple of months ago.
Yeah, Hannah and I realised, because Hannah and I quote it still a fair bit, we always go, I went to a strange place called Shul, and I say melancholy a lot. And Elliot, so what are you talking about? I haven't seen that movie. We were sit down and watch this. It's such a good movie.
I remember seeing Monsters vs. Aliens when it came out and thinking it was fine.
Yeah.
I don't think I saw that. What was the one you said before Monsters and Aliens?
Kung Fu Panda.
No, before
Kung
that,
Fu Panda as a trilogy
that's a very good film.
Is another one. I would throw Kung Fu Panda for this show because that's a weird trilogy in that every movie is better than the previous one.
Yeah. No, there was something else in there that I was
Madagascar, Prince of Egypt.
Yeah, that's a good movie.
Yeah.
Madagascar's
DreamWorks really, I guess then they kind of, they had Trolls. They had this thing called Tales of Arcadia, which I've never heard of.
Yeah, never heard of it.
Me neither.
Boss Baby, Captain Underpants, and something called Abominable. Oh, I saw the...
Oh, did they do the Captain Underpants movie?
Was Abominable the one where Zendaya is Michi? What's that one?
I think it was actually the Abominable Snowman. I didn't see it, but I remember seeing the trailer.
So, yeah, but I loved Captain Underpants as a kid. I had all the books.
They were funny.
I didn't see the movie, but part of that was because it was I don't want to, I loved that series of books when I was 10 and Underpants humor worked on me, and I don't want to sully that memory
I think I was
by
more into
re-experiencing
the
it.
Just series, like Just
Oh,
Disgusting,
that was good
and
too.
just I
The Andy
loved
Griffith
those.
books, yeah.
I played Dead Flyella in a. I also played Shrek. Have I mentioned that before? I
don't
must
remember.
have. But in the Estedford, when I used to do like speech and
Oh,
drama,
yes, yeah.
there was a time where Hannah and our friend Emily and I did the scene from Shrek, the Blue Flowers, Red Thorns.
Yeah.
But I also we did the entire
Oh yeah,
of
you've
Dead
talked.
Flyella.
I think we've talked about this now that you mention it.
So I was Dead Flyella, and then my friend was the Prince Charming Dead Fly. And just thinking back on it, you're like, not only flies, but dead flies. What a stupid concept. It's hilarious.
So yeah, do we have anything else to say about Puss in Boots 2: The Last Wish?
It was really good. I really liked it. Yeah, I liked that. I really liked just that the ending was that Puss just really had to embrace his mortality and but also not live in fear of death. Like, you know, initially, it wasn't like go and retire to a cat sanctuary. It was like, no, still go out, have adventures, just actually value your life. But you're allowed to still take risks and you're allowed to still fight for things and have adventures, but you just need to like appreciate what you've got, which I guess ties in with the theme of appreciating what you've got in general. I just thought it was such a great message and they pulled it off so well.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
We've got a deep dive here on the wiki from Elliot.
Sorry, yeah, I've still been scrolling through the
wiki thing. So, Elliot, you go first.
This one is wild.
Oh, so I was in the comments on the Dulciina page, which I read before.
Okay.
And those comments, they were a lot. But they've led me to another page on this wiki, which is Kitty Softpaws versus Dulciina, because I guess Dulciina is someone a lot of kids ship.
Oh yeah, ship
Puss in Boots with.
Yeah.
And so, like, this is just a whole page. Okay, this is great. So the title of this section is, so what would happen if Kitty Softpaws and Dulciina crossed paths? So we all know, well, most of us do, that the series is set before Puss even meets Kitty. So basically, about his adventure after he is exiled from San Ricardo, but before he meets Kitty, as the directors of the series have said. That sentence does not compute.
Yeah, I didn't really follow that.
It's a zero punctuation.
The last thing we know in the series is that Puss rides off into the sunset with Dulciina. So what happened to Dulciina? Because in the movie, the last thing we know is that Puss and Kitty were dancing, and then Puss dips her and they kiss.
What?
Exclamation mark, yeah.
We've got some punctuation, guys.
Summing it up to that, they are a couple. Exclamation mark as its own word. So Puss in Boots ends up dating Kitty Softpaws.
Exclamation point. You missed it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, let's say that Puss and Dulciina, and that's a hyperlink to a page about them. I'm going to open that in the background.
Also, okay is all in caps lock.
Puss and Dulciina went back to being friends right after they went adventuring together. They choose to be best friends again. Puss goes to San Ricardo where he meets the attractive and kindred Kitty. After they kiss, Puss and Kitty go their separate ways. Puss and Kitty are adventuring together.
It says they go their separate ways. Wrong there, by the way. They go their separate ways together. What the fuck does that mean?
When suddenly they come across Dulciina, who wants Puss back after choosing to go back to be his friend.
So this is just almost now a fan fiction.
This is just turned into a fan fiction.
But not an actual, just a synopsis of a fan fiction that they would like to maybe write.
Yeah. I think what's funny is like this starts off as like obviously the concept of this page is already fanficky. Like, what would happen if these things be? But I love how this segment devolves from trying to academically discuss how these two characters would interact to just full-on theorizing.
To just, okay, let's say. That just goes in a little story. Trivia.
No, all the trivia is boring shit we've already said.
I want to tell you about something that DreamWorks did. I was looking through DreamWorks' stuff and I found Tales of Arcadia. Have either of you heard of this?
Yeah, no.
So Tales of Arcadia is a series of... It took me a while, that's why I was a bit quiet for a bit there, just to figure out what this is. It's 3 different TV shows and then a movie that were released between 2016 and 2021. So the first one had 3 seasons, the second show had 2 seasons, the third one had 1 season, and then there was a film. And I guess it's all kind of in the same world, but it's like by DreamWorks, and 2 of the key creatives seem to be Guillermo del Toro, who's like the creator of it and one of the showrunners, and Mark Guggenheim, who, if that's a name,
oh wow, that's a name I haven't heard in a long time.
Yeah, it's who like kind of championed the DC CW universe, right?
Yeah.
Like Arrow and Legends of Tomorrow specifically, I think.
He joined them. I think Greg Berlanti is the guy who kind of runs that.
Is that right?
Guggenheim was the one who took over and made like Elicity a thing.
It seems like
people hated Guggenheim is all I remember.
Yeah,
really? He created the show, is what this seems to say to me.
But I think he took charge. Like Berlanti left Arrow to go do like Flash and Supergirl and stuff, and it was like when he was left on his own. And I think he also did the Green Lantern movie with Ryan Reynolds.
Yes.
Yes.
Percy Jackson, the second Percy Jackson movie, I think, or
they did a second one.
I don't know. It's just Percy Jackson's Sea of Monsters.
Those are books, you know.
Yeah.
No, I know. Yeah. Oh yeah, it's the second Percy Jackson movie.
I think they're gonna do another because apparently the books are quite popular.
Disney Plus is doing a show.
But anyway, back to this Tales of Arcadia thing. Apparently, it's really good.
Oh,
so I don't know how I missed I specifically want to bring it up because this is the quote on the top of the second page of the wiki page. Since its release, the franchise has been widely praised as an ambitious and boundary-pushing animated series, with Travis Johnson from some website or some Australian website, it seems, calling it the best children's animation to come along since Avatar: The Last Airbender, which is very high praise.
Wow.
Oh wow.
That's a big call.
But you always put your best quote on up the top, I guess. I don't know if they do that for wiki pages, but it seems to be pretty successful. So I might have to check this thing out.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Good. The cast is kind of crazy.
Is it on Disney Plus or?
Oh, yeah, I don't know. I guess.
So I'd just like to read a comment.
Well, no, I'm doing mine. Just hold on. Let me read this cast first for you. Okay.
This one is also Elliot's is bothering me. I don't like it.
We'll get to that one
read it. I don't like
the cast of this include Anton Yelchin, Mark Hamill, Kelsey Grammer, Ron Perlman, Glenn Close, Stephen Ewan, Nick Offerman, Diego Luna, Tatiana Maslany, Nick Frost, Stephanie Beatriz, Alfred Molina. Like,
how have I not heard of this?
I know. This is a crazy cast.
I'm going to see...
I mean, the word Arcadia sounds vaguely familiar, but it's... I don't know.
Yeah. How strange.
Yeah, please don't...
I must check this.
Oh, it's a spin-off of Troll Hunters, is it?
I don't think... the first series was called Troll Hunters Tales of Arcadia. So that was the first series.
So it's not a spin-off of the Trolls franchise.
No, it's not a spin-off of the Trolls franchise.
But
now they're hunting them.
That's the franchise of the McElroy brothers.
They're hunting the trolls.
You're thinking of just Trolls, which is also DreamWorks, actually.
Yeah.
What a cast. Holy shit.
It doesn't look interesting.
I know that looking at the poster, it doesn't look good, but I don't know.
Yeah.
It looks like very anime, like he's wearing a suit of armor but also holding a sword, and it also looks like sci-fi.
It gives me like shitty Netflix Dragon Prince ripoff vibes.
It definitely does.
Yeah.
I have
like the sort of thing where it's like, oh, this is the Dragon Prince but not as good, and the Dragon Prince is already pretty shaky to begin with.
Yeah. Oh, well, we'll give it a try.
Anyway. Okay, now read us this comment, Elliot.
Yeah, so this is from the page, this is a separate page, the one I was on before. This is the Why Kitty or Dulciana is Better page.
Okay, great.
And I've skipped over, there's a lot that I could have pulled out here, but I skipped over a lot.
And there's like the lack of punctuation in the page as a whole is just...
the differentiation between the article and the comments is
minimal.
Borderline. But yeah, this is from a fandom user, posted it on the 16th of March, 2022. LMAO, y'all Dulcina ex Puss shippers are down. Kitty is coming back in the new movie and looks like they're still together.
And this is in all caps lock.
Yeah. I mean, this person would have been really sad when it found out they didn't get married, but then happy when the end of the movie implies they're getting back together.
Guys,
there's just also a huge section of just gifs of Puss and Dulcinea, or whatever her name is, dancing. It just says Puss and Dulcinea dancing.
Well, there's also
and Puss and Kitty dancing.
Yeah, Puss and Kitty dancing is another section. Yeah, it's all gifts.
And they're all gifts.
Guys, why fight over this? They are both good cats. But I like Dulcinea because she gave everything for Puss. She went back in time with Puss. All Kitty did was give up her love for gold, and Puss Dulcinea is nice, independent love to help others in needed, kind heart. And Kitty, on the other hand, she just like Puss. It's like 1 in a million for Puss to find other cat like her because they have same skills. She's very cool, but Dulcinea is one of a lifetime. Her personality is just good. If I was Puss, I never give that up. But all jokes aside, I think Dulcinea is better because she bring Puss back to life with love. And Kitty is cool too. I like both of them. Agree or disagree with me? They are both awesome.
No comments. Full stop.
That was like 10 paragraphs to say absolutely nothing.
Oh, wait, the comment below. Also, I would like to think there would be a really good trio.
Oh.
I mean, that's a classic fandom move, though.
We've reached the point of the
stop
show.
fighting polygamy.
We've reached the point of the show where we're just diving into the comments of a wiki, which happens every episode.
We could be here all day.
It's time for us to wrap
I'm
up.
closing all the tabs. I'm quitting cold turkey.
Cut yourself off. So that's the end of our show. Thanks everyone for joining us. Go check out Puss in Boots 2: The Last Wish. It's great. And next month, Jurassic World. So good stuff.
Trust me, it'll be worth it if we can get to the last one. That's going to be a ball.
Okay.
We just got to get through one more shit one, and then we hit the glory.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
It'd be fun to rag on something shit for a bit.
Yeah, that'll be nice. So yeah, thanks for being a patron, everybody. If you're not a patron, you're hearing this 6 months late, so you can hear us listen to Jurassic World 2/Jurassic Park 5 and Jurassic World 3/Jurassic Park 6 and 4 more episodes after that if you become a patron right now. So go to patreon.com/duffmedia and do that. And as we say every time, bye hoy,
listeners,
and get out of our
swamp.
swamp. And also, no harm ever came from reading a book.
Yay! Good job, Reuben.
What the heck? You left me out by myself. Shame on you.
Imagine.
How dare you?
I can't believe we were that rude to you.
End the podcast. I'm sorry.